The SEC was far and away the best conference in the nation last year, but now it's up for debate with the Big Three.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Thursday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. Joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks for making us your first listener watch on this Thursday to get things going. Special shout out to all of you everydayers, all the members of the brand new Everydayers Club, and all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Look, you guys, it's kind of crazy that we're to this point, but after this week is over, we will be a third of the way through the regular season. So what we want to do today is we're going to look at which conference is the best right now. Also, it's finals week for a lot of schools around the nation. So it's time to look at some grades. Who's getting the good grades and who is flunking and going to have to retake 5th grade next year. To help me figure all that out, we got our guy, DeShaun Tate, in the house at Takes Take Hoops. He's the man, and it's great to be together, DeShaun, to talk about all these great teams.
Isaac, I'm so excited to be here, man. It's like there's so many different storylines within college basketball. You've got a ridiculously amount of just freshmen that's going crazy. I think this is the first time we're going to have an all-freshman class NBA draft, probably, of the lottery picks.
Yeah, lottery
picks anyways. It's going to be crazy thinking about that. You haven't had to wait until March to get a little bit of madness. The #1 team in the country has already gone down. There's a fight for who's the best conference in the country already. I mean, there's just a lot of ridiculousness, a lot of wildness. I don't think it's going to get, in here. I think just the closer and closer that we get to our favorite time of the year, yes. Third month of the year, by the way, for those who've been living under a rock. It's just going to be a reminder to everybody the closer we get to it that, Sundays were actually made for selections.
I love a good selection, especially when it happens on Sunday. So as we record, by the way, we're not going to touch much on Wednesday night's action. We won't look ahead much to Thursday, although we got a nice Cy-Hawk matchup tonight, Iowa State. Purdue just trucked Minnesota right before we hopped on, 85-57. Braden Smith, 15 points, 6 boards, 12 assists, 5 steals, and 2 blocks. Oh my, Purdue was mad about losing over the weekend. And literally, as DeShaun and I are recording, Nebraska and Wisconsin are tipping off. Huskers trying to stay undefeated at home against the Badgers. Going to be very interesting. So we'll update you as we go in real time. But DeShaun, here's where we want to go. Our first conversation today is what is the best conference in the nation? And that's always a hard question to answer because there's a bunch of who is the most depth, who has the most national champion prospect, like a whole bunch of ways to skin this cat. But sure. DeShaun, I think it's safe to say right out of the gate that there were only 3 conferences that are really even much under consideration for that. And that's the SEC, Big 12, and Big 10, unless you want to make me a case for the ACC.
No, I don't want to make a case for the ACC. And I almost don't want to make a case for the SEC. Some way, somehow, we got to find a way for Kentucky to wake up from the graveyard if we're going to put them into the conversation.
Good night.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of realistically just kind of at that point. I think it is a 2-conference race, to be honest with you, at this point. I think that's the obvious. That is the Big 12. That is the Big 10. Both teams with 6 teams ranked in the top 25, 2 of those 6 teams from each conference that are unbeaten. I think that there's just so many familiarities between both of these teams. Looking at the conferences playing against one another, the wins are about the same. They both got about 8 wins apiece against each other. it's wild to think that they could really be just this even when you think about how really good Arizona is and how good their wins have been so far this year. You think about how dominant Michigan has been this year, how unusually good around this time of the year Michigan State has been, and then Houston's still right there in the mix with Iowa State just taking down a team on that other side that's competing for the best conference in the country. It's crazy, man. It's I think it really is a race down to between those two conferences. I really do.
That's interesting because as I've been thinking about this and preparing for our conversation, in my head I've been keeping the SEC in the mix, but okay. I very much hear where you're saying from the Big 12 and Big 10 standpoint. But because it's like, as I look at the SEC right now, I got to be honest, DeShaun, I don't see a national title contender in the SEC, right? Like the teams that we thought were going to be elite, whether it was Kentucky or Florida, they ain't in right now. When we look at the SEC, it's like, is Bama the front runner right now?
Right.
Like, I don't know. And sure, when Kentucky gets healthy, maybe we have a different conversation. But dude, right now it just looks like the SEC doesn't have that. The SEC does have some depth, obviously, but it's not high. I guess I should have included Vandy. They might be the favorite in the SEC right now.
Right.
But even Vandy and Bama at the top of that heap are at best 3 seeds right now. Yeah. And when you look at Big 12, I would have both Iowa State and Arizona as a 1 seed. I would have probably the top 5 Big 12 teams as a top 4 seed.
For sure.
In the Big 10, I would probably have 1 seed with Michigan, but then probably have both Illinois and Purdue as 2 seeds right now. So it's, I think at the top, you got to go Big 12 and Big 10. The SEC doesn't have anything there. NCAA tournament, I think both Big 12 and Big 10 have more teams that would make the tournament if it started today. Barely, but I probably 11 from the Big 10, 8 or 9 from the Big 12. From a depth standpoint, like both the Big 12, like in the net. How about this, DeShaun?
Okay.
Big 12 has 6 teams in the top 20 at the net.
Wow.
The Big 10 has 8 in the top 40. SEC has 9 in the top 40, though. So there is some depth.
Sure.
But I think I'm with you that it's Big 12 and Big 10 ahead of the SEC right now. And I think it's because they're all decently similar depth-wise, but because of the national championship prospects of the Big 12 and 10. Is that where you're at?
No, it is. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, the reason why all of this can be so much very confusing is because when you're looking at all of these conferences or looking at all of the conferences and all of the teams within them, I'm just not sure that I feel really confident saying that I can see a national championship contender right now coming out of the SEC until something kind of shakes out and changes around. However, while certain teams definitely have peaked early and looked good and are going to look good throughout the season, have always looked good throughout the season, Iowa State, they're a hard sell for me to consider them for a realistic national championship contender. When there's certain teams that you think about that drop the ball every single year, and this isn't an indictment on them and what they do during the regular season, because it is what it is, but they tend to do something similar to this each and every single year. They're very difficult to play at home. Obviously, they play great defensively. Another one of those teams, Arizona hasn't won the whole thing since 97? Aren't they the last technically West Coast type of team that have won a national championship? Talking about how long it's been since a team has won a national championship. How about the Big 10? They're in that same conversation. So everybody's scratching and clawing at one another to try and be at the top of this mountain. For all we know, the national champion might come out of a conference that we haven't even mentioned at this point. So, I mean, considering all things, I just think that the Big 12, in my opinion, while both of these conferences go really deep, I think that the Big 12 goes a little bit deeper than the Big 10. I think that the Big 12 that might make them slightly better in some people's opinion, but I think that the Big 10, shocker, right? Because it's the Big 10, is a little bit tougher than the Big 12, in my opinion. So It's kind of up in the air. It's all over the place. I'm looking at some of the teams that both of these, conferences have played within their, ranked opponents. They got some similarities. Both of these conferences have beaten Auburn. Of course, Texas Tech has lost 2 games to the Big Ten, being Illinois and Purdue. But then you turn around and you have a UCLA team that lost to Arizona on that side. And, Michigan, as good as they have looked, they haven't really had the more difficult schedule. Now, they're beating up on everybody for sure, no questions asked. But they haven't really had the difficulty in scheduling. And it just seems that we all of a sudden kind of forgotten about the Wake Forest and the TCU game. One of them went to overtime and the other one was very, very tight.
Very close. And I'm with you. When it comes down to what's the actual answer, I'm going Big 12 as well, because I think the Big 10, there's a big 4 for me in the Big 10 right now of both Michigan schools, Illinois, and Purdue. With the Big 12, I think there are more prospects at the top, right? Like I would have probably 6 schools in that top 2 tiers of the Big 12. And some of that is pending Darren Peterson's health, if I'm being honest about that.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's a critical
storyline. Very.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to take the Big 12 right now as the best conference in college basketball. So it's like we had a 1-year hiatus where the SEC took over, and now it's right back to the Big 12, who had been the best conference in basketball for a while. All right, DeShaun, that's incredible. Now it's time to get to finals week, where some teams, man, we've even talked about a couple of them, are really, really performing. Who right now is getting those grades at the head of the class? That's where we're headed next. Right after I tell you about Aura Frames, you guys, the holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories. Because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload it with photos before you gift it. So when your loved one plugs it, if I got it for DeShaun for Christmas, he plugs it in. I got all sorts of beautiful pictures in there for him already. No apps to figure out, no head scratching headaches, just instant smiles. You can upload endless pictures to the Aura app, and also videos up to 30 seconds in length. Man, that's so good. You can add a personalized frame inside it so that the message is there and the picture frame is even more personal. Packaging comes gift ready. There's no price tag, no wrapping needed. It's just a massive win. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, which, by the way, were just named #1 by Wirecutter. And you can do that by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays, and show support for the show by mentioning Locked On College Basketball at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, thanks for making Locked On College Basketball your first listener watch of the day. You already live your team every day. Now you can take it up a level and go ad-free by joining the brand new Everydayers Club, getting Locked On College Basketball with no interruptions, a members-only Discord access, and more. All that for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedoncollegebasketball.supercast.com, or you can just find that link down in the show notes. All right, DeShaun, here we go. Final exam week is upon us. It's time for you and I to dole out some grades. What we're going to do in this segment is each pick one team who has outperformed what we expected this preseason or this season, and what grade we would give them. DeShaun and I have not talked about this, and so I'm very excited to learn who Mr. Tate's Takes has picked for his team.
Overperformed, correct?
Yes.
This might shock some people. Shocker. I'm going to go with Michigan State on overperformed.
Oh, that extra word. It not just Michigan. We're getting State in there.
Yeah, I'm going to put the Sparty on that, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it's not, we see so often that Michigan State puts together this very difficult schedule. I mean, granted, we haven't even been, 10 games played for most of us already. They've already taken down Arkansas, which obviously was a home game for them, but it's definitely not easy. Arkansas is contending for the SEC, probably the best team in it. Considering that, you also have to factor in a neutral site game against a really good and improved North Carolina team as well, with a lottery pick there. And top all that off with obviously an underwhelming Kentucky team. And I think that's where it starts getting a little bit shaky. Obviously, they take a loss to Duke in a very competitive fashion. But you typically don't see the reason I put them there is because you typically don't see Michigan State look this good this early.
Yes,
and
I'm
I think
you.
that's probably the biggest beneficiary to why I would put Michigan State there, including the fact that your Mr. Do Everything, Jace Richardson from last year, is no longer on this basketball team. This is literally about next man up. Tom Izzo is back to doing Tom Izzo things. Hopefully it's not peaking early for the Spartans because they're going to need it down the stretch.
I love this, DeShaun, because if I asked you, name me like the top 5 most talented teams of the Tom Izzo era, I don't know that this team is in that.
They wouldn't be. You do know if they're in it because they're not.
Sure. I love being definitive about it. Thank you for that. But man, what they are is they have figured out how to be a team. And you've got Jeremy Fears, who is just the engine that stirs this drink. You've got the athleticism with Mr. Number 55 that just dunks everything in sight. You've got a formidable front court. These guys, Kohler, they're not the most, phenomenal front court I've ever seen talent-wise, but they know what they're supposed to do. This team knows their roles, and they're leaning into it, and I love it. Now, what's interesting, DeShaun, is I picked a team. I actually picked a couple teams in case you picked mine, and so I'll give you my team, but then I'm going to give you my 2 honorable mentions as well, and here's what's funny. All off season long, DeShaun Tate, there was a team that I said, look, most of the national media is very high on this team. I am not. I don't think they are. I don't think they should be as high as most people have them. And I just don't know. Early in the season, it seemed like it was being proved right because they were struggling with Wake Forest. And they were struggling with TCU. And now, DeShaun Tate, this is a swallow your pride moment for your boy Isaac, because these Michigan Wolverines are trucking everything in sight and even things that aren't in sight by 87 points apiece, it seems like. Michigan Wolverines, I apologize. I was not familiar with your game. But, I mean, my goodness, what they are doing to every opponent they play right now, like from who they were before Players Era to who they are now, it is crazy, DeShaun. So if I'm giving Michigan a grade, I got to go A+.
It's almost looking like the Monstars or the Harlem Globetrotters at this point. I'm going to tell you, this team kind of reminds me of, in terms of its identity, maybe not nearly as much of play style. But they remind me a little bit of Alabama, because when Alabama gets going and they start putting those points up on the board, now obviously Alabama's known a little bit more for its, perimeter shooting. But when they get going, you're not beating those guys. And that's kind of the reputation that Nate Oates and his scheme and his system he's put in place kind of reminds me of what they're doing over in Ann Arbor as well. So they're getting guys like they're literally clocking in, doing the work, clocking out, getting paid, and they're an extremely deep team. They're going to be really, really tough. Not just now, not just later, as some of these teams that they have played. Now, they haven't necessarily played the top ranked teams and all these other things, so forth, but does it really matter when you're smacking teams around the way that they're doing? They're out there looking like an NBA team playing against toddlers.
And it's not like Auburn is not Auburn of last year. They're solid. San Diego State, top 50 at Ken Palm. Gonzaga is the best team they played, and they beat them by 40. And Gonzaga, look, this Gonzaga team is very, very good.
Yes, they are.
They are. And so that's easily the best win for Michigan. But yeah, I'm very curious to see, because there's not really anything else left in the non-conference schedule that impresses you. And so, like, Michigan feels like they could kind of skate by, because like you look at some of these other teams and the non-conference slate has been much more challenging. And so that's a great call by you in that regard. Now, the other 2 teams I had picked as honorable mentions that we didn't talk about, one is Vanderbilt, who is undefeated as we record. I'm going to give them an A-, and here's why. The offense is absolutely cooking. They don't turn the ball over. But similar to what you just said about Michigan, their non-conference schedule is kind of like, yeah, okay, but who's your best win? Like, their best win is SMU, or maybe it's St. Mary's or VCU. But it's like they've beaten a whole bunch of top 50 teams, but they haven't beaten any top 25, top 10 teams.
That's right.
And so, and the rest of their non-con slate isn't going to give them anything either. So I feel like very much wait and see on Vandy until SEC play, and then we'll really find out. And the other's Iowa State, who you talked about earlier, man. I mean, when we talked Big 12 preseason, it's Houston and it's BYU because the AJ DeBanza, and here comes Iowa State, who might, it's right now them or Arizona for the Big 12 favorite. And so I got to give Iowa State an A for a grade as well. DeShaun, I forgot to ask you what grade you're going to give the Spartans.
I think Sparty gets an A minus. Sparty gets an A minus.
I'm here for that, man. I like it. Sorry, I couldn't swallow. I had water. That's great. Yeah, I like that. All these guys getting good grades. All right. So DeShaun and I have so far been talking about the happy teams who are in a good place right now, getting ready for Christmas and the New Year and everything's happy. But there's some teams in other parts of the country who might not be killing it and who, as I said earlier, might have to retake 5th grade next year because things aren't going well and they're getting some Fs and not great grades. We're going to give you our picks for what teams are underperforming and what grades we're going to give them coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, you guys, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And live betting is best when that happens, when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, or there's a turnover that completely flips who's got Mr. Mo on their side. FanDuel lets you jump right into those moments because live spreads and money lines, they adjust instantly. You can bet the next touchdown score. You can bet the result of this drive, whatever it is. How about some Wooden Award odds? Right now, Cam Boozer leads the way at -140. Braden Smith from Purdue +900. AJ DeBanza +1,600. And LeBaron Philon and Yaxel Lendeborg from Michigan at +2,000. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, as we said, it's finals week for a lot of schools around the country. So DeShaun Tate and I are doling out some grades today. By the way, I told you we'd update you on Wisconsin, Nebraska. Halfway through the first half, the visiting Badgers are up 21-19. Nebraska's in a little bit of a scoring drought. They should have eaten more corn before the game, clearly. All right, DeShaun, final exam week grades. We're now going to pick one team who has underperformed based on our preseason expectations and what grade we would pass out. DeShaun, I'm going to let you go first. Again, who you got for this one, my guy?
The difficulty of trying to find just one. Not that it's been just that many, but I feel like between a few different teams, it's been pretty equally bad. I think on this one, the obvious answer is probably the one that's considered to be the blue blood, that being Kentucky, who came out ranked in the top 10, number 9, in fact, currently unranked. They've lost about 4 games already on the season. Now, granted, they haven't been, scheduling the worst teams in the country or anything like that. They've been playing some really tough teams. I'm just not used to seeing them not win any of them. Best win, I think, on their resume right now is between the 2 Florida teams, being Miami and Florida State. But I think that St. John's is still very much in that same conversation as well. Coach Pitino, just with the schedule, again, they played some pretty good teams, but they've also, lost a couple games that I wouldn't have anticipated that they would have lost, especially with the guys that have come back, Ian Jackson being one of them, not necessarily performing. Him, Ejiofor, Sanin. I thought that, Coach Pitino, when you start talking about these Hall of Fame coaches, would have certainly had them a little bit more prepared to play. And I'm going to throw one more out there at you.
Hang on, let me say one thing really quick about that.
Okay.
DeShaun, I know that about a week from now, you're going to the CBS Sports Classic where those 2 teams are playing St. John's, right? And so that's going to be really, I'm very intrigued by that game to see how it's. Anyway, I just, that hit me as you were talking about it. I was like, oh, they're squaring off here in about a week. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I know, right? No, I actually am interested in hearing yours because I got a feeling that you're probably going to mention the one that I have here last highlighted on this sheet.
One team that I thought about, this is not my team, but one that I thought about was Houston, not because they've been poor or bad, just because I expected them to come out and be like right at the top of the heap. And it's not like they've taken a bunch of losses, like you said, they've lost 1 game. But like at Players Era Festival, I was like, I don't recognize this team. And part of that is they're relying on freshmen a lot more, but also JoJo Tugler hasn't stepped up offensively the way I thought he would. So I think Houston's going to get it figured out, though. I'm not terribly worried, but they're like right now, based on preseason expectations, they're not who I thought they were. But the team I got to go with, and this is another one where Isaac missed it in a big way. You mentioned Kentucky. It's another SEC team for me, and it's the reigning national champion Florida Gators, who, as we record, are sitting at 5-4, having lost 3 of their last 4 games. And DeShaun, like 3 of these losses are very understandable to me because it's teams. 3 of their 4 losses are all to teams that on Selection Sunday are probably either going to be 1 or 2 seeds. They started the season losing to Arizona on a neutral. They lost to Duke in the ACC SEC Challenge at Cameron. Oh, by the way.
That's right.
And then they just lost to UConn this week on Tuesday. Each one of those is very understandable, and all of them are close. They lost to Arizona by 6. They lost to Duke by 1 and UConn by 4. And so when you look at what's actually happened, totally get it. The TCU loss should not have happened. They should not have lost to TCU. And here's the other thing. They should have lost to Florida State at home. Florida State should have won that game. And the issue clearly is not the front court because this is the national championship front court. They got everybody back. The issue lies in the backcourt. There were people that identified it this offseason. I missed it. I thought the combination of Fland and Xavion Lee was going to be great together, and they have not lived up to what they needed to do. So the answer for me is Florida, and I'm going to give them a D as of right now. Is that who you thought I was going to say?
That is who I thought you were going to say, so much to the point that I think that the points I gave you on Kentucky were Florida, with the best wins being against Miami and Florida State. Either way it goes, both of them being equally as bad as it can possibly even get, especially when you start talking about Florida. I think that they probably was putting a little bit more focus on NIL than they were adding a number to the left side of the result column, probably. But nonetheless, I think also a huge loss in the guard from a guard position was Denzel Aberdeen as well, who ended up transferring to, well, of all places,
funny enough,
Kentucky. So, but no, I agree, and I figured that you were going to say Florida. I said, let me back up and give him a little bit of cushion, give him a little bit of breathing room. He'll probably say Florida, and of course, who else other than Chomp Gators? So no, yeah, I think it's a combination of a few of those different teams as well, and it's not too late for them to kind of, get back on the high horse and figure some of this stuff out and what have you. All of them being led by some good coaches. I actually had the Houston on here on my list as well. They are the one I'm not concerned about as much. However, when you're talking about being coached by the legend, is Kelvin Sampson not in the Hall of Fame yet, for crying out loud?
He's not.
He's not in the Hall of Fame. I feel like he's been knocking on this door for a national championship. I feel like this has to be the year to do it. He's taken this program from literally nowhere. We never even gave a second thought, let alone a first one, to Houston. The good thing is that I know that they're going to be right there in the end, no matter what happens, as long as barring injuries. The concerning part about that is they're all about getting stops and what happens when they try to muck up games and keep it really low scoring and another team is just on a heater and can't miss on purpose.
Yeah. And with Houston, I mean, I don't remember the last time this was true. Houston is number 11 at KenPom right now. Like, when was the last time they were outside the top 10 at KenPom? Their defense is 6th in the nation, which is wildly elite. But for Houston to not be 1st or 2nd in the nation just blows my mind. So, DeShaun, man, this has been such a fun conversation, giving out these grades, looking at the conferences. And I forgot to ask the audience, we need to know from you, who would you pick for your top conference right now? Who would you have put give in that overrated category? Who would, or not overrated, but who has played over what we expected from them? Who has not lived up to expectations and would get a bad grade right now? We want to know your answers to that as well. You can drop it in the show notes, hop in the Locked On College Basketball Discord, and let us know there as well. Guys, it's always great to have our guy DeShaun Tate with us. Make sure you go give him a follow at Tate's Take Hoops. I always got to slow down when I say it because I get
a tongue twister there.
I got a tongue all throw around. Seashells by the Tate's Take Hoop Shore and all of that kind of stuff. It's great, man. DeShaun, you're a baller, and I love getting to be with you. Thanks so much for being here and lending all your great insight. If you all have not subscribed to the show on video and audio, do it right now so you don't miss a second of Locked On College Basketball. If you haven't checked out the brand new Everydayers Club, that link's in the show notes again. We'd love to see you be a part of it. Reach out if you got questions about it. We'll talk to you then. As always, I got to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Pope. Shouts to the McBruins. And until tomorrow when Andy and I will be back with you. Peace.